Godzilla vs. Destoroyah is the final film of the Heisei era, yet there were many other story proposals with interesting concepts that were considered. And even though the film is 27 years old, we are still learning of these drafts and proposals. So for today's video, I want to focus on one of the more recently rediscovered ideas, the Terror of SpaceGodzilla. In 1994, in preparation for the next film, a proposal tournament was held for Koichi Kawakida's assistant directors to see who could come up with the best idea for the follow-up to Godzilla vs. SpaceGodzilla. Yosuke, or Yo Nakano, was the author of 3 of these proposals, including today's feature, the Terror of SpaceGodzilla. And if that name sounds a bit familiar, that's because it's likely an homage to the Showa era's Terror of Mechagodzilla. Terror of SpaceGodzilla was a direct sequel to Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, just like Terror of SpaceGodzilla would have been a direct sequel to Godzilla vs. SpaceGodzilla. In Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, the Big G was given an immense power boost from the life force of a dying Rodan. With that energy now surging through his body, Godzilla would unleash a deadly volley of spiral heat beams on the helpless SpaceGodzilla, destroying the evil space kaiju. But like Biollante, its life force would survive and float up into space. Terror of SpaceGodzilla would pick up here just outside of Earth's atmosphere, where some of that life force still remains. A space station's orbit would bring it near this essence, where it would then attach itself, quickly growing into a giant crystal monster. There's no concept art for this form, but it might look something like SpaceGodzilla's flying form, or its concept art images, except for that it would be much larger. The only measurement of the flying form is 250 meters in length, whereas the satellite monster is said to be several kilometers or several thousand meters in diameter. From orbit, it attacks Earth, hitting it with electromagnetic waves, gravitational anomalies, and with some kind of method of crystallizing matter. Now these attacks seem to be evolutions or variations off the ones we saw last time by SpaceGodzilla. The photon hurricane attack with the ring-shaped electromagnetic wave, telekinesis used to lift and move objects, and the raising of crystals from the ground. In response to this orbital threat, G-Force would launch everything in its arsenal, including a newly designed MOGUERA built to better handle space combat. While working on SpaceGodzilla, Yo had created a much more involved space battle between MOGUERA and the flying form, but unfortunately it was removed for time. So for the sequel, the battle could be realized. In Mr. Nakano's proposal, he noted that Godzilla and Little Godzilla would struggle in dealing with the threat due to its attack range. But despite overwhelming odds, the two would refuse to fall to the might of the Crystal Beast even if it cost them their lives. And it makes sense since the distance would just be too much. It is possible that Godzilla could hit it with an atomic blast, but it would be tough with the monster in a fast-moving orbit. But if he couldn't hit it, then maybe MOGUERA or the Gotengo could, possibly bringing it down to Earth for a closer fight. According to Wikizilla, Yo is an outspoken fan of SpaceGodzilla, making me think that once the monster was on Earth, it would have taken a familiar Space G form. Or maybe even something from the unused concept art, or Super Godzilla. In the last film, it raised a field of crystals and channeled energy from space through Fukuoka Tower. It's likely that he would use a similar strategy here, and with the satellite form already having turned large areas to crystals from space, and with its secondary form dwarfing the flying form, this time SpaceGodzilla could be much more powerful, and he could be even larger. When the idea of having Godzilla die for the 7th film was decided upon, Yo would amend the story to include his demise. Unfortunately, we don't know just how it would have happened. However, when Yo heard of Hideki Oka's Godzilla vs. Barubaroi proposal, he loved the idea enough to stop working on his own ideas and help Oka with his pitch to Koichi Kawakita and Toho. What are your thoughts on the Terror of SpaceGodzilla? And how about a MOGUERA built with space combat in mind? I want to give out a special thanks to Toho Kingdom and Wikizilla for their information on these unused projects. And I'd like to thank you for watching. Your likes, shares, comments, and subscriptions go a long way towards helping the channel grow. Take care, and I hope to see you next time.